Hello, hello. Guys, anyone can hear me? Am I audible? Yes, no, maybe. I hope I am. Just give me a sec. All right, perfect. So, guys, let's get started. Hi, all of you. Hope you all are staying home, staying safe. So, let me take a quick moment to introduce myself to all of you. My name is Manish, and I am the Assistant Vice President, Head of Career Services for Imarticus Learning North and South. So, I essentially manage the overall client acquisition, the placement opportunities. In terms of knowing that what kind of products we need to ensure that people get placed, etc. So that's about my current role. If I talk about my overall experience, so starting my career with ANZ, Australia and New Zealand Bank, wherein I was essentially part of the learning and development team. And post that, I developed an interest, a keen interest, I would say, in training, and I always wanted to have a career in training. I would say training and development. So I then ended up doing a lot of corporate trainings. I would say, which was essentially into a lot into campus to corporate, then business etiquettes, operations, and other aspects. I also got an opportunity to train for some of the colleges in Bangalore, especially because I'm based out of Bangalore, and it was a pretty great learning experience for me, I would say. But I wanted to establish myself a little more on the training front. I wanted to have some sort of international certification that can essentially help me to stamp my authority, I would say, in training essentially. So I completed my Dale Carnegie's Master's Black Belt certification, and I have also completed my CSI certification from Melbourne, Australia. So that's all about me. It's been almost 6 years that I have been with Imarticus, and the journey has been great. So as you can see, I transitioned from training and then into career services. So interaction with clients and knowing what's happening in the industry was something that I was always associated with. And today, in this particular session, I am going to share with you some of the best practices which anyone can follow, across different domains and verticals, be it into financial services or be in cracking the interview like a pro. So without any further ado, let's get started. So first of all, let's understand one thing, guys, that when we talk about the Indian mindset of how to ace an interview, we all have an assumption. Uh, so we all have an assumption that we need to be really working very hard in order to crack an interview. But I'm unfortunately, this, I'm sorry to say, but this is not the truth. The way how you crack an interview totally depends on how you perform on that particular day. It's like, you have played pretty well on in all the league matches, but you end up losing the World Cup, which is what is happening with Indian cricket team as well. So we end up winning a lot of league matches, we win quarterfinals, we win Super Leagues, etc. But somewhere we are not able to cross the final hurdle. So you can consider your interview as the final hurdle, and you have to come up with certain skill sets. You have to demonstrate that, in fact, on that particular day, at that particular point in time, to ensure to ace the interview. So usually, if anyone is appearing in any interview, the first question that is asked to any of the interviewee is, of course, how do you introduce? It can be, tell me about yourself, walk me through your resume, uh, highlight something good in terms of your professional and personal qualities, etc. So at the end of the day, the core question, or the core, I would say, the real aspect of the question remains the same, that the panel wants to understand that where are you coming from, who are you in terms of your personal and professional expertise. And that is where they start drawing the line, and that's where the parallels are drawn accordingly. So let me give you an idea of how to have a effective introduction. So usually when you introduce someone, or when you introduce yourself, the best way to start with is, of course, with your name. So let's say that if I have to introduce myself, I would definitely not make the mistake of saying that myself is Manish or so and so. No, that's a wrong way of projecting yourself. That kind of tells the interviewer that you are not very confident of your profile. So the best and the most simple way of addressing yourself is, my name is Manish, and then you move. The next step is obviously talking about your work experience, if you have any work experience. So, and then you also touch base upon your internships. You touch base upon any kind of additional qualification that you have. You also demonstrate any additional skill sets that you might have acquired over a period of time. So let me give you a simple example. If I have to give my introduction, how would I do that? So I would start off by saying that my name is Manish, and I have completed my bachelor's in technology or bachelor's in commerce, whatever your qualification is, from, let's say, Manji or SPJN or Jain College, with a specialization in finance. Post that, I got an opportunity to work with Australian and New Zealand Bank, wherein I started working for so and so, and my major roles and responsibilities included, whatever your key roles and responsibilities are. It is very important for you to highlight that, because guys, let's understand that the reason why the interviewer wants to know about you, even though they have the resume in front of them, is because they want to clearly get an idea that, are you sure of what you have projected or demonstrated on your resume? I might write anything. I might end up writing that, I'm a pro tennis player, but that does not mean that I become Roger Federer, right? So it is important for you to understand that whatever is there in your resume, you need to highlight it, you need to iterate it effectively. Okay. So my name is Manish. I completed my master's in business administration from SPJN with a specialization in finance. Post that, I started working with ANZ because I was interested in a financial services domain. Let's say if you are from a financial services background, and if you are from an analytics, again, you have to highlight and iterate that. So if I have to say that why I started working with this and this bank, or why I started working with this particular firm in analytics, it purely goes in terms of how that's actually very, very important. Okay. So I will definitely start off by saying that I started working with ANZ, wherein my major roles and responsibilities included handling customer escalation, raising tickets as and when required, and also handling client queries. Apart from that, I have also done my certification in advanced derivatives from NISM or NCFM. Again, you are highlighting your additional qualifications here, because see, everyone, if you are an MBA or a normal graduate, more or less has the same set of skills. Then what extra do you bring onto the table, onto the plate, is something that people will be interested in. So that you need to definitely highlight. And then you talk about any certification. So for example, if any of my SIBOP student, now SIBOP is essentially a product in investment banking operation. So this is targeted towards anyone who is a fresher, graduate, or someone has 2 to 3 years of experience, or maybe 4 years of experience in a different domain, but the person is willing to go ahead and have a career in IB Ops. So for that, SIBOP is the program. So anyone who is part of my SIBOP program essentially highlights the learning that they have in SIBOP. Okay, so for example, they will say that during my training at Imarticus in SIBOP, I learned about the different securities and derivatives in level 1. I understood how different financial markets work, how different products are traded. In level 2, I learned about the trade life cycle and understood how from the time a trade starts till the time the trade settles, what are the processes involved in it. So, and in level 3, we learned about risk management, anti-money laundering, regulations, etc. So now what I did just now, I actually emphasized, or I actually told this to the interviewer that, look, I have my graduation, I have my master's degree with me. However, the reason why you should take me a little more seriously, or why you should consider my candidature a little more, is because of the fact that I have, or I have done a certification from so and so institute, and I have gained this expertise, which is actually required to settle or to start a career in any sort of operations profile. Similarly, if it's for an analytics, guys. So I'm sure that a lot of you here also come right there that I did my certification. Uh, I did my certification in postgraduate diploma in analytics, because analytics is something that I always wanted to have my career with post my engineering or post my bachelor's, etc. So what I'm doing, for anyone who has done any sort of certification or extra training, guys, please make it a note, make it a point that you should definitely highlight that. Because if you actually end up highlighting that, I'm telling you, guys, that actually puts across a very different dimension of yours in front of the interviewer. Yeah, is that okay? So that's the way. And then you close on with your personal interest. So you can also include that apart from apart from my training and certification, apart from the skill sets that I have developed, I'm somebody who's who loves photography. Let's say if that's your passion, or somebody who is inclined towards cooking. So you are, you can give a personal reference. You can say that photography is something that of late I have developed a keen interest in. So I love doing portrait. I love doing sketches, whatever it is. I mean, it is totally dependent on what kind of personal interest that you have. So you definitely can, demonstrate that as well. So in order to have an effective introduction, gone are the days when you just ended up saying that I have done my master's, I have done my graduation, and I have so and so percentage. Now, come on, everyone has done well, everyone has scored above 60%. So why should I even consider you and not somebody else? That's where you adding on additional points, you bringing in different flavors is actually very important, and that plays a very critical role at the end of the day in deciding the next move. Okay, so that's one of the major things that you have to keep in mind. Apart from that, there is one more important factor that all of you should keep in mind, irrespective of the background and irrespective of the company, irrespective of the profile. Now, guys, there is something called as interview mapping. Okay, I'll repeat myself. There is something called as interview mapping, and I think I learned this particular technique during my training with Dale Carnegie, wherein interview mapping was projected, and that's when I realized that how important it is for people to kind of showcase or kind of understand and preempt what other is thinking, what the other person on the other side of the table is thinking. Because see, I have been a learner as well, and I have been a recruiter as well. So at this point of time, I'm telling you from the perspective of both the audience. Now, when I say mapping process, let's understand what is this mapping process. So again, I'm giving you an example of a trained professional, certified professional, let's say from Imarticus Learning, who is opting for a placement. Now, all the placement opportunities that Imarticus student gets are all dedicated placement opportunities, which means we have association with clients, They open up their requirements to us, and then our team, we have a robust and pretty agile team which works extremely hard, even in this pandemic situation, to ensure that all our students who are part of our program, gets a shot at starting off their career. So let's say that when you have introduced yourself and you feel that the interviewer looks pretty confident, you feel that the interviewer is kind of developing an interest in you, good you are in preempting what he or she think. So for me, if I have highlighted that in my analytics certification or in my SIBOP certification or in my financial analyst or business analyst certification, I have given them that, see, Mr. XYZ, these are the points that I have, or these are the learnings that I've had in my training. Please be rest assured that the next question that they are going to ask you will be somewhere hovering or will be aligning in line with your learning at or in your training. So if I have said that, I've learned about advanced derivatives, or if I've said that I have learned about how risk management works, how investment bank works, how different products are traded in different markets. So the next question, if I would have been an interviewer, and I'm sure that a lot of my clients that I interact with, and of course, I was also in the hiring process, I might end up asking the question, since you have studied in your training about derivatives, can you explain to me, or can you tell me what is a derivative and why is it traded? If you are from an analytics background or IT background, you said that I have an understanding, I have a basic or a foundation, understanding or level understanding of different tools and techniques. So I understand what is a logistic regression. I understand what's a linear regression. I understand random forest, SVM, etc. Because I have been trained and certified in my training at Imarticus on these essential lines. So the next question that I will ask is, since you have gone through this particular training, can you explain to me what is a linear regression or what is a logistic regression and why is it used? Now, you might have this urge, or anyone will say that, chalo theek hai, let me go ahead and give a simple definition of what a linear regression is. But that is where you actually create or end up doing that blunder. And there are very high chances, I would say 9 out of 10 times, that you will get rejected. Yes, 9 out of 10 times, there are chances or probability that you will get rejected. The reason being, if I only have to hire somebody in order to know what a definition looks like, or maybe what is the backdrop of how a textbook read is, I have Google. Why do you think I am hiring you, and why do you think I'm paying you and training you? Yeah, that needs to be answered, right? I have Google. Everything is on Google. That's why we call them as Google Baba. Everything is there in Google. So why do you think I'm even hiring you? The reason why I asked you this question is because I want to understand that if you are a trained professional, what level of strong fundamentals that you have at your disposal. Are you someone who is able to elaborate, or are you somebody who is able to explain this product to me using an example? Can you relate to what's happening in the industry right now? And guys, that's where a proper training, a proper mentorship from someone who is from industry is of prime importance. Because only if you interact with someone who is from the industry, that is when you will be able to understand that what's actually happening out there. We all know that currently we are stuck with, we are in the middle of this COVID world. And I'm sure that you agree to the fact that we don't have a clear idea when this is going to come to an end. 1 year, 2 year, we don't know. So you know that if you are appearing in an interview, there are very high chances that your interviewer or the panel might end up asking you a question on, so what do you think? So let's say if you are aspiring to become a data scientist, they might ask you that, can you tell me any sort of algorithm or any kind of technique or tool which can help you, or which can help us to understand that how the fatality or the mortality rate would shape up 6 months down the line. Now, you should not be shocked or surprised, or you should not cut a sorry face when somebody is asking you a question from the current industry, from the current trend, because that is what they're expected to do, and that is what you are expected to know. So this is preempting. This is called as mapping. So why is it called as mapping? Because if I'm moving from point A to point, okay. So that is something which is extremely important. So this is what we call as the interview mapping process, which means you have answered question number one, and you know that you have iterated something. Now it can be as simple as your college level subject. You are saying that I did a project on VLSI, I did a project on traffic signal simulation, or I did a project in terms of understanding how mutual fund works. So don't you think that I would be interested to know from you that can you please suggest me which mutual fund should I invest if I am an early investor in my 30s or in my 20s? So guys, be prepared that if you are answering anything from your additional skill set or anything from your work experience or qualification, be rest assured somebody is going to intervene in between and ask you real time questions related to that. So the bottom line is, please be updated in terms of what's happening in the industry. That is very critical. If I take example of some of the recent interviews that our students have had, uh, we have, by the grace of God, we have done really well in terms of ensuring that our students get placed. They get the platform which they're looking for in terms of proper learning, proper development, proper skill sets development, and of course eventually getting placed. However, there were few who got rejected as well, and of course in any interview someone will get shortlisted, someone will get rejected. But if I give you a common feedback across what were the elementary reason, or what were the elementary reasons for someone to go to have been rejected, it has been just the same basic facts. It's like someone, Mr. X, is not updated in terms of what's happening in the industry. So it's a guru mantra from me. Please buy it, and it's coming free of cost to you, at least at this point in time, that you should know what's happening in the industry, guys. Trust me, that is going to set the tone for the rest of the interview. I hope I'm making some sort of sense. I'm sure. Now, once you have started doing this, you have already set the tone. So you have already sang the mukhla side of the song. And now it's time for you to move to the next aspect, which is they will now deep dive in terms of knowing your product knowledge. Now, when I say product knowledge, guys, a product knowledge is not only about what you have learned in your training or certification, or what you have learned in your college. But when I say product knowledge, it also talks about that, do you know the use case of it? Do you know where it is utilized? So, for example, if I say that, you know what, Mr. So let's say that you are having an interview at Honeywell for a data science engineer or a data science intern, and they will ask you that, okay, can you tell me that what kind of tools and techniques should be known at this point in time? So when you are answering questions related to that, what they are looking is not an expert, because they know that if I'm talking at this juncture, if you are moving into a different domain altogether, they're aware of the fact that the person is not a the person is not a data scientist, or this particular student or candidate is not an IB professional. He or she is trying to build a path, to get into this particular industry. So what they're looking is, of course, your fundamentals. So which means that the moment someone starts asking you about the product knowledge, be rest assured that they're expecting three things from you. Point number one, you know it very well what is there in your resume. So if you are saying that in my training at Imarticus Learning, I have learned about product A, product B, and product C, or let's say for IT and analytics, technique 1, tool 2, tool 3, and then this is what you have covered essentially in the training. That's point number one. Point number two, there has to be at least one particular tool and technique which you should be extremely good at, because they might ask you this question, which is your favorite? Which is your favorite technique, or which technique would you use to incorporate in the current situation? So in order to answer questions like that, you should have at least one strong topic, or one strong product, or one strong I would say skill sets in terms of tools and techniques that you should know. Because if you are not showcasing that, somewhere the interviewer will lose interest in you. Okay. And point number three, very critical point. Let me come closer to you and say, do not sound robotic. Imagine we are having this particular session and you find me answering you questions like this, or telling you this, please ensure that you know everything, please understand that you have to cover everything. You will lose interest in that, I'm sure. So what happens that the interview process is actually a dialogue. It should not be a monologue. It should not that you only are supposed to deliver your performance or deliver your speech, and the other person should not be involved in that. So what is important, guys, that give it a blend of real time conversation. So for example, if someone is asking you question, he or she does not expect you to be scriptive. He or she does not expect you to be too robotic. However, what he or she is expecting from you is that whenever you are explaining something, bring in your body language into the place. Use your hand gestures. I would say, probably bring in some sort of variation in the pitch and the tone, in the way you are explaining. Bring in a lot of examples from from whatever learnings you have had. Because for me, if you ask me that how do I differentiate between a good and a better, or probably a better and the best one, somebody who is able to give me examples frequently in order to substantiate his or her point very clearly tells me or signifies that the person is more confident. This person will be able to work under pressure. This person will be able to demonstrate his skill sets under pressure. And trust me, guys, this I'm not telling you only out of a context of 2 to 3 interviews. This I'm telling you from an experience of 9 years of experience that I have had, interacting with various clients, interacting with people at different level, etc. So it is very, very important for you to understand. Do not sound robotic at all, because that is the yeah, of course, not a conversation of probably my favorite Bollywood movie. Yeah, I can say if you ask me this question though, but when I say conversation, I'm talking about a general conversation that yes, of course, for example, I think mutual fund is the best way for a newbie or somebody who is starting to invest or looking to invest, because that involves that you do not amplify your risk too much. You can diversify your investments into different levels, and at the same time, if your investment horizon is big enough, like let's say around 5 years plus, if it's long, then you can expect decent returns also. So see, when I am having this conversation with you, you are trying to understand. You will get that feel that this is something which is coming from his fundamental aspects. This is not something that he has just learned and he's just mugged up or reiterating from a book. Yes, we all learn something or other from the book. Reading, it's a very good habit. I do involve myself in a lot of reading. However, when it comes to explanation, because I've been a trainer myself, and fortunately, I have my students have rated me as a good trainer. So the only thing which I feel that I did differently was I was able to build that connect. They should be able to know from me that okay, this is coming from someone who has experienced it. So I should not only be thinking in the perspective of what an interviewer thinks, but what even a student thinks. So last, as I said, I'm reiterating it, do not sound robotic. These are the 3 most important factors in the interview. Now, once this kind of sets the tone, let's say you clear the first round, you clear the second round. Now, what kind of rounds will be there and how many interviews and how many interview rounds will be is something which is, guys, totally dependent on the company in contention, and which is also totally dependent on what kind of client they're looking to hire you for. Side, you should know that if the team is looking to hire me on fixed income side, they will question me a lot on fixed income. They will test me on fixed income, and essentially they will expect me to know a lot more when it comes to fixed income securities. On the analytics line, if someone is asking you, let's say as a Python developer or a data scientist in Python, so obviously they expect you to know your machine learning tools pretty well. They expect you to know the basics of Python. However, knowing other aspects. But what is important, guys, that at similar point in time, that if the JD says that I am looking to hire you for position X, for a profile of X, you should know that probably or slightly better than maybe the other set of products and or other set of tools. Okay, so that is what is called as product expertise, and that is what is called as getting geared for the interview. So in Apple Inc. Incorporated, Apple Incorporated, exclusively calls this as 1 to 3 ladder process, which means that from step A to step B you are moving, and then you're moving to step 3. This is also helping you to set the tone, and the more conversational this entire interview process becomes, trust me, the better your chances of closing an interview effectively. Okay, so these are some of the basic tips or tricks that I would give you, that that I'm sure is going to help you. And guys, I have trained over 500 plus trainees in my career so far. I think, in fact, more than that, across regions, across globe. International learners from India, in financial services, in analytics, in IT, campus to corporate, etc. And trust me, at the end of the day, the essence, maybe the product that you are creating out of that, which is simple: know your product well, sound confident, do not sound robotic, and close the interview properly. Have an assumptive closure. Okay, I think if you keep these four factors, or these four aspects in mind, irrespective of the industry, you will be able to crack that interview. Okay, I will share with you a few of the recent examples, or few of the important examples that are there in my life, that I can recall interviewing, or my students getting interviewed at a different corporate level. So one of the best incident that I can relate to is that there were 4 rounds of interviews. This was at Morgan Stanley. Now, Morgan Stanley is one of the major investment banks in the world, an American-based global bank. So this was essentially into asset management team of Morgan Stanley. So there were 3 positions, and almost close to 10 people were competing for that. 10 students of Imarticus were competing for that. And his name is Prabhakar. I still remember that. Ended up asking this question that, okay, assume that I have only one position and I want to hire, between two of you. I have only one position and I want to hire between two of you. Tell me, why should I hire you and not the other person? Now, different people will have different opinion, and I'm not saying that there are any hard and fast rule of approaching a particular question. But a question like this is, guys, tricky. And also understand that if it's being asked in one of the multinational firms, which is very well known for the kind of interview process, then you know that it's not going to be a straightforward or an open textbook. So one person answered this question that the reason why you should hire me is because I have a very good understanding of different instruments. I have a great understanding of I'm so sorry, I'm trying to reconnect. Yeah. It's because the reason why you should hire me is because I have a great understanding of different products. I have great understanding of instruments. I know how trade life cycle works. I know how an investment bank works. I am someone who is a quick learner. Everything, he said. So that's the reason why you should hire me. Now, the other person, who also happened to be an Imartican, happened to be one of our students, she ended up saying something different, which I personally really liked. And in fact, I give this example to all my trainees whenever I train somebody on the investment banking front. Please, or some sort of extra knowledge, or same instrument and products that we both have learned. Okay, this particular person, he might be very good in fixed income instrument or derivative. On the other hand, I might be good in product B and C. However, if you consider both of us, because at the end of the day, I know that there are close to 3 positions that we are interviewing for. But if you actually take both of us, I'm sure that we both can be a great asset to the company. Now, see what she actually ended up doing. She said that on the knowledge front, I have the same set of knowledge. On the skill sets and the qualification front, I have the same set of knowledge. So you say something about yourself, the other person says something about. At the end of the day, are you somebody? At the end of the day, are you someone? Remember, there are roles which requires you to be an individual contributor, but please understand that at the end of the day, you all will be part of a team. We all have to work in a team and work for a process. So if we are working for a team or for a process, it's not only about my contribution at the end of the day. Yes, I might get my appraisals, I might get my set of appreciation, it's fine. But at the end of the day, if the process itself gets defeated, or the process itself does not succeed, then there is no point of that. So that particular student of mine not only demonstrated her knowledge and skill sets, but also showcased and told that if you consider both of us, because we both have reached to the final round, understand, there were so many participants and we both have reached to the final round, which means that we both have some sort of qualities which I'm sure you would have liked, and this requires you to have a lot of confidence. It cannot come so easily. You have to be confident enough to tell this to the interviewer. So if you can hire both of us, or if you can consider both of us for this position, I'm sure we both can be great asset to the company. And that was the final nail in the coffin. And immediately after 2 days, offer letters uh, out of the box. When somebody is asking you a question which test your interpersonal skills, not only apart from the product knowledge, guys, please understand, it requires you to have some sort of personal trigger. Your answer should have a personal trigger. So if I want to ask, or if I'm questioning somebody that why should I hire you, you don't have to end up saying that I match skill sets which are there for this interview. I match those are all Googled answers. Nobody is waiting for a Googled answer. You need to come up with some sort of different answer. So how can you create a different answer? You don't have to do any rocket science. Only thing is that create a personal trigger. Use it for you. So if someone is asking you why you should hire me, I would rather say that, well, there are two reasons why you should consider hiring me. Reason number one, as I have been trained, I'm a trained professional, so I have a very good understanding of different products, different instruments, or I have a great understanding of different tools and techniques which is currently used in the industry. And apart from that, I am someone who is very inclined, who is very interested to start a career in either an investment bank or in analytics firm. So I think with my knowledge and the skill sets and my passion towards this is definitely going to help me, to shape up my career better. Now, this I said only for me. I'm not saying that this job requirement matches my skill set. Now, tell me, how do you know? How do you know that your skill set is exactly matching to what the JD is? You don't know that. And the person that you are competing with, or your competitor, he might have the same skill sets. So how can you say that you do not have, you have your job, your skill sets are exactly matching to that? So you have to go ahead and tell what you know the best. I know this. I know. So highlight your product knowledge, highlight your training knowledge, whatever your knowledge that you have gained in your training. Highlight then about the interest, that why you are interested in this, that you always had a dream to get into an investment bank, or post your engineering, you always wanted to get into a data science or analytics industry. I think if you highlight that and close it, that's called assumptive closing, stating that, so if you consider point 1, point 2, and point 3, I'm sure that I can be a right fit for this job. That itself answers all the question. Okay, so important closure, guys, is extremely important. Make sure that you close the interview effectively. You go ahead and tell the interviewer, you don't leave them in set of knowledge. I have developed these knowledge not only in my training, but also in my work experience. And I'm sure if you consider all the parameters that I have highlighted, I can definitely be a right fit for this. This is extremely important. And trust me, around 45% of the rejection happens only for this question, that why should I be hired? So please never refrain from saying my skill set matches your JD. You don't know. You are, we are not Superman, or we are not Superwoman that we know everything. Skill set matches your JD. You don't know. You are, we are not Superman, or we are not Superwoman that we know everything. So just go ahead and say that, okay, this is what I know, and this is what my skill sets are. I think if that is matching, if the wavelengths are matching, I'm sure I can be part of your organization. And to close off, guys, organization. And to close off, guys, one more question. I'm sure that a lot of you would have experienced in your career. That, do you have any questions for me? I'm sure, right? Because a lot of my trainee, they come up to me and say that, Manish, whenever this question is asked, we don't know what to answer or how to answer that. Do you have any question? First of all, don't say no, because if you are saying no, you are saying no to your chances. Clear. Unless and until the interviewer is really very keen on hiring you, and the interviewer has already decided that you should be the person, or you should be the candidate for this particular role. However, if that's not the case, refrain from saying no. You can ask. There are multiple ways of asking question. One is you can ask that. I wanted to know that what kind of trainings or mentoring would I be receiving when it comes to on-job training, because that will help me to probably prepare more. Now, again, you should not sound too serious about that, by the way. Okay, so that can be one question. Another question can be that what are the different kind of extracurricular activities that I can be part of, because I love playing guitar, or I'm into music, I'm into dance. So wanted to know that is there any particular forum or platform wherein I can also get involved in some sort of corporate social responsibilities activities, or extracurricular activities. Last but not the least, if you do not know anything, or if you're like completely blanked out, you're too nervous during the interview, then you can just say that as of now I don't have any question, but I'm sure that as if things progress well, and if I end up getting shortlisted for this position, I'm sure I will have a lot of question, and I will try to see how to figure out the best possible answers for that. So even, I mean, getting nervous or being nervous in interview is absolutely normal, guys. I mean, it is absolutely fine. There can be situation wherein you're completely blanked out. But even in that case, if you feel, take some time. It is okay. Your interviewer is a human being at the end of the day. Tell him that I'm a little nervous at this point in time. Can I take a moment, please? And 99%, I'm sure the interviewer won't say no, because I will never say no. The colleagues that I have worked with have never said no. The clients that I'm associated with, they have never said no. So I'm sure that there cannot be so exceptions. There can be exceptions though, but your exception can never be part of the process. So it's okay to go ahead and say that I need a moment to answer this question, or I need a moment to probably come to terms, rather than blabbering anything that comes to your mind. It is okay to be normal. It is okay to be human, and it is absolutely okay to go ahead and say that I don't know this answer. Okay, we are not masters of our domain. There can be situation that I might not know a question. I mean, even in my particular product or domain, if you ask me a question, there can be a situation that I'm not aware of the answer. But instead of going ahead and possible, because the person who is into experience, he or she knows this process, he or she knows the product pretty well. So instead of creating an answer, it is okay to go ahead and say that I am not sure of the answer, but still, can I give it a try? In this way, the interviewer will accept, and they know it for a fact, guys, that out of 10 questions that is being asked to you, it is not mandatory to answer all the 10 questions. If you can answer, well and good. But if not, it's absolutely fine. Okay, so just follow these simple tips and tricks. Just be confident, be clear with your products, know what's in your resume. Don't sound scriptive at all. Don't sound robotic, and have a conversation, have a dialogue, and close the interview properly. Don't just leave it in between. Just ensure that you close it, whether you know it or not, but close the interview properly. That's called as assumptive close. I think if you can follow these simple matrix, if you can follow this simple process, I'm sure that you will definitely see success, and I'm sure that you will come out with flying colors. It may work, not all the time, but as I said, with my experience and with an experience of training so many students all these while, it has really worked well for all of us. Okay, so that's all for today. I wish I could have continued for 2 to 3 hours, but yes, these interview prep sessions or best practices of interviews are an integral process of our product. So if anyone who is part of training with us, either for CBOP or PGCM or for PGDA, PGAA, we ensure to provide all these small nuances of the interview, in order to help them to crack, in order to build an effective resume, so that at the end of the day, the dream or the expectation that you have had, in terms of learning and getting placed, is met. So on that note, thank you so much all for attending, and yeah, stay safe, stay hungry, and stay foolish, and please take care of yourself. Thank you so much.